Okay, so we are now live. I'm just waiting for it to show up on the stream page. Let me reload here. There we go. All right, so everybody should be able to see and hear us. Okay, hello and welcome. I'm sorry for the little technical glitch there. It was my mistake. Mery was ready and I had sent her the wrong link. Anyway, this is the Take Note Chat. It's episode 18, and we are here with Mery, better known as the mom behind the computer. She is going to show us some of her favorite ways to deal with paper clutter and teach us some tips on paperless living using OneNote. We'll be taking your questions and comments throughout this live stream. You can use the YouTube chat box, and later on, if you have questions or comments, just put them in the comments of this video. You can also post or share about this event using the hashtag takenotechat. So before I tell you about our incredible guest, Mery, I wanted to ask if anyone watching live already has had some success using OneNote to avoid having so much paper in their life. So if you've had some success with this, or you're trying, or you're using it, put a comment in the chat box so we can talk about it. So let me tell you about today's guest. Mery is the writer and creator of The Mom Behind the Computer. This is an inspirational blog where she shares ideas and resources and tips from her life as a busy mom and virtual assistant. She also has a YouTube channel by the same name, Mom Behind the Computer, where she shares more of those things, as well as OneNote and digital planning tutorials. Welcome, Mery.
Hi, Michelle. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be good. I'm really excited. So I wanted to have Mery present on this topic because she already has a lot of great content on her channel on this topic. And as a virtual assistant, she does all of her work without paper. So even though so much of my life has switched to digital, I still have to process a lot of paper. And to be honest, I really don't like it, and I kind of stress about it. So I know I'm not alone in this because it comes up a lot when I talk to other people around OneNote. And other digital tools as well. This is like a common thing of getting rid of paper.
Yes, paper is really such a burden to deal with. And so I'm really excited to be able to share the tips that I've come up with over the years that I've been becoming paperless.
Yeah. Okay, so let's check the chat and see who's already using OneNote. Let's see. Okay, so Carrie is a school teacher and uses it for planning. That's awesome. Maggie, I know Maggie uses OneNote. Paul, hi, says nice to see you, Mery and Michelle. And Betty 026 uses it for work and keeping track of teams I oversee. That is a great use. My previous guest talked about using shared notebooks for work management, and I just thought that was brilliant. So we are ready to jump into the content. So Mery is going to show us 5 different paper pain points, as I like to call them. And you can, she'll show you ways you can lessen the pain of these by using OneNote. And FYI, I had to cut this down to 5 areas because Mery has about 15 or 20 areas that she can talk about. So she has way more knowledge on this topic, and she'll be telling you, and will be telling you how to get in touch with her and get more information from her later on this video. So, Mery, what's our first paper pain point?
Okay, great. I am going to share my screen with you because I have some examples set up. Sometimes I really need a visual to see what something can look like. So let me get my screen sharing set up here for just a second. There we go. All right. Can you see that okay?
Okay. I can see it fine, everybody. Let me check the YouTube page. And it should be showing up fine.
Perfect.
Okay.
YouTube's
just on a lag.
So my first pain point I have is working with planners. So planners are really such an essential way to get organized and stay organized and prepared. And Michele has some really great videos here on her channel on YouTube where you can see how she plans every month. And I definitely suggest that you check those out. I've learned a lot from those, and I've gotten some great planning ideas from watching her videos. I personally was a paper planner for years, and honestly, I'll be the first to admit that when I go into a store, I'm still really drawn to the paper planning section. But at this point in my life, paper just can't compare to the advantages of digital planning for me. There are a lot of reasons why I digitally plan, but one of the biggest is that by digitally planning, I always have my planner with me at all times because I'm never far from my phone, so I can refer to the planner whenever I need it. Personally, I keep most of my appointments in Google Calendar and then later archive those by either doing a screenshot or a PDF copy into OneNote so that I can search kind of my whole life when I'm searching for a topic. But the bulk of my planning actually happens in OneNote. And I really love that OneNote is so flexible and it allows me to switch up my planning style as I need to. So for example, in the past year, I've used such a different variety of formats based on what I need at that time. So I have some of those examples here. I have a bullet journal, which you can see I just have the entire month laid out there, and I can put in appointments and birthdays and journaling notes that I need to take. I can even put in my tasks and check those off as I need it. And then at the end of the month, I have this nice bullet journal all set to go. And you can easily drag these as well. So say I didn't get this birthday present purchased, you can just drag those to another day and deal with those then, which is really cool about bullet journaling in OneNote. I also have this weekly style, and this weekly style works really well for me when I feel like I can just do it all. I'm sorry, I zoomed out a little too far there. I think I have a little bit of lag on my computer because I'm streaming. So here you can see I can really break down everything. So I have holidays. I have, this is where I would put my events. I have happenings, which is kind of like what I did for the day in my mind. I have tasks that I need to do, habits that I need to keep up with, brain dump areas, links to other areas in my calendar, goals and projects that I'm working for. And this is really great when I'm kind of just overwhelmed as a whole and I need a place for everything that's kind of going on in my life in a big way. Most recently, since we've been on lockdown around here, and I had a son about 3 months ago. I haven't had the capacity to handle that much planning. So I went to a monthly style, and you can see even when you're doing digital planning, you can still add really cute stickers and notes and things like that. I even sometimes put in pictures of my kids like on a day so that I can remember the fun things that we did together. And then you can put in whatever you need to remember for each of those days. So I really love being able to plan digitally in that way. It really gives me flexibility to do what I need at that time. And one of my biggest tips for going paperless when you're planning is to go ahead and try to eliminate as much of that paper on the front end as you can. So if I'm at the doctor's office and I'm making a follow-up appointment, I pull out my phone right away and I put that right into my planner so that I don't even have to take the slip of paper from them. And then if I get event invitations in the mail, I put the appointment in my calendar. I plan backwards in my planner for any tasks that I need to complete, like buying a gift or getting ingredients for a dish I need to take. And then sometimes I'll even take a picture of the invitation and put it into OneNote so that I can refer back to it if I need to later, or if it's just really adorable. I have some really creative friends who send some really cute invitations. So sometimes I need to refer back because I'll think, did they say this or am I remembering it wrong? And by eliminating that paper on the front end, I never have to go and search for the paper invitation. I can just go straight back to my digital planner, which is within OneNote, and refer to it at any time, any place, that sort of thing.
Yeah, you had several really good tips there. I really liked how you showed kind of the three different planning styles that you've shifted in between as your life has changed. And I too love that about OneNote, that you can really just do whatever you need in that moment. Like, that's great. And the idea of adding stickers and pictures is really cute too, because, we have to do these planner pages anyway. Well, if you need that to take care of your responsibilities and stuff. But then when you add pictures or stickers or something, it kind of turns into a memory page as well, without doing a lot of work of like journaling or scrapbooking or whatever.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And for me too, adding the little stickers gets rid of some of that paper planning jealousy. When I see the planning world looking so cute, I'm like, I can be cute too in my own little digital planner.
Yes. And, I totally relate to that, of like kind of looking at the stationery and wanting the stickers and the pens and all that. But the truth is that it just didn't work for me. Like, I couldn't handle my life like that. And as much as I love looking at those, I don't enjoy doing it enough to like set aside an hour or two every week to create a beautiful planner. Like so I do here, like, I like that, we have the ability to make things like pretty or cute and stuff so that you're not totally left out of that.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me, so we have a few comments I want to go through, but the other thing I wanted to highlight is this tip of eliminating paper on the front end is so good. And this was something we were talking about when we were preparing. And I think this is such a great tip, because if the paper never exists in the first place, you don't have to deal with it later. And just that very scenario that you mentioned, that, one of the healthcare centers I visit always offers you a printout when you leave of all of your upcoming appointments, regardless of if they're like a checkup or a physical therapy or whatever. And, before, it would have been my instinct just to take it, be like, oh, I can always use this to double check. Now I'm like, I don't need that. I already have these appointments and I have access to it online. And they call ahead of time. So there's just being on the lookout for ways you can just stop the paper from happening altogether is a really good tip.
Yes, it's so much easier when you don't have to go through stacks and stacks of paper, which I'm looking around in my office and I see stacks and stacks of paper that I had that I didn't put into this digital system on the front end. And now I have to spend extra time in my life to go through them again. And most of them are irrelevant. And it's just, I'll take as many minutes as I can keep in my life without having to go through old paper.
Yes. And, as long as we're being honest here, as long as we're, I had to move a stack. It's like the one stack of paper I have in my house that I haven't processed yet. It's like stuff that comes in through the snail mail, the U.S. Postal Service. And it's like just out of camera range. And I moved it because it was in my camera. But let me check some comments here. Okay. So we were, some of these comments relate back to how people are using OneNote to go paperless. And, Denise Vidak, who also has a YouTube channel, she uses OneNote for everything, has some great tips to share on that. Andrea uses it for school planning and health. Okay. So Denise Vidak says, new appointments in the Google Calendar and then weekly planning so that she plans just for the upcoming, I'm sorry. I was reading Denise's comment. Somebody, Paul just made me laugh. He said, go on and show us, Michelle. He wants to see my stack of paper. And while I'm going through the comments, Mery, if you can go back to the middle style, someone missed the details on it.
Oh, absolutely.
So Denise was saying she puts her appointments on Google and then does a weekly planning so that she can plan just for the current or upcoming week. And I really like that. I do that on a daily basis because I want to like really drill in and make sure I have, like, if I have an appointment, that I put the time it takes me to drive there and the time it takes me to get home and kind of plan things like that. Okay, so I'm going to, let's see here. You're back on that middle page. Okay, so why don't you just explain that a little bit, since someone had a question about the details.
Sure. So yeah, this is kind of, I'm sorry, it's probably a little overwhelming because it's a peek into my brain, which can be quite overwhelming. But what I do, just as my personal thing is, I kind of put out the plan for the week, and then I put in any stickers. This is from May, obviously, for holidays. And this is where I would put events, birthdays, that sort of thing. I have an area called the One Thing, which if you've ever read the One Thing book, it suggests that you focus on one thing as your main priority for the day. And you block off as much time as you need to focus on that to move forward in that day. So that's where I would put my one thing for that week. I have projects over here. Again, this was a while back, and these are all just links to different areas of my OneNote where I'm keeping more detailed information on those projects. And this is, I'm a crafter. So this little I'm crafting today is linked to my current craft project. So I can just pull that up. I'm a crocheter, so I need a crochet pattern a lot of times, and I can just pull that up at any time. And then happenings is where I kind of journal about what went on for the day, that sort of thing. So I do that in the next column. I have, this is sort of like what tabs would be in a physical planner. So I have, gratitude, I have my crafts, I have recipes, I have gifts that I have saved away, all of that. And this is just sort of like my quick links. So these are links to different areas of OneNote where I have that information, and it's nice to have it on my planner. Obviously I can easily go to it in the app or on my computer, but this is sort of my home hub for OneNote. And I kind of put all of that there. Down here, I have tasks, which are the unique tasks of the day that I would have going on. These are things that I consider habits. So things that I'm trying to do each day, my virtual assistant work, laundry, dishes, that sort of thing that I want to get credit for. So I like to check them off. And then down here are, my gratitude goes to my gratitude journal. Homeschool goes to our homeschool plans for the day, that sort of thing. And then I have just tasks that have to be done sometime in the week. And then also Bible study and prayer, which is personal to my life. And then a brain dump where I can put those items that kind of come to my head until I can process them later in OneNote. So it's huge and it's kind of massive, but this is really good when I have a lot going on that I need to deal with.
Yeah, I can see that, how it gives you the 1 week overview, but it gives you space for all of those little things. And I think that is so important. There's a saying in the Getting Things Done system, which is your brain is for having ideas, not holding them. And the more we can write things down, get them out of our heads, and then you can act on them, the better. It just frees up brain space. Mm-hmm. So the other thing you mentioned that I really like is you have a spot for brain dump. And that's kind of something I like from Getting Things Done system as well, is that you have this idea of collecting. Like you have we all have multiple inboxes, whether it's your email inbox, your US postal inbox, whatever. But this brain dump can be kind of like an inbox, and it just holds things, and then you can process them later. You can figure out, oh, is this an event? Is this something I might want to buy? Is it a recipe? And that kind of thing. So I like that. And then the other thing, you had mentioned that your little image that says I'm crafting today, that's actually a clickable link. I don't want to make you click on it in the middle of this.
Yes, yes.
Can you hover over it and just show that it's clickable?
Yes. So this was actually from when I was working on my baby blanket for my little guy that was born. So I needed the pattern so that I could refer back to it. And it's really easy to do a image link. So this one isn't linked to anything right now, but if you just right click on it, mm-hmm. At least I'm on Mac, so it may be different in Windows or wherever you're at, but you can just insert a link. And so that's a really cool way to make an interactive, pretty page. Or you can even make it a lot more functional by making images linked like that.
Oh, that's great. I'm putting that in the chat. I think I knew that, but I don't really ever use it, and I had kind of forgotten about it. So that's really cool that, you could have, if you have links to recipes for dinner, you could use like a food icon or something.
That's really, or even a picture of the recipe. Like mm-hmm. if you made it look really good one night, that's awesome. That's a good idea.
Love that. Wow. Okay. So I think that's everything for there. And we have a few more comments, and, okay. So related to the idea of images and stickers, Carrie wants to know if you have a page in your OneNote where you save stickers, or so that you can just copy and paste straight from there.
So yes, I have a couple of different ways I do it. I'm one of those, I tinker and do different things. So I've saved them to files on my computer and just kind of click and drag them in. I've done that before. I've also done where I've made a page or multiple pages on OneNote. The only challenge I have with that is when I am not on my computer, I have to kind of click it back and forth between pages, and depending on my mood, that gets a little tedious, but it is a great way to make sure no matter what the storage is on your device, that you always have your stickers with you. I use all Apple products. So right now I'm kind of mainly using the Apple Cloud to do it, and I have them everywhere. But if I didn't, if I had different types of devices, or if I didn't have cloud storage, I would definitely just make a page and just kind of click back and forth. And if I'm on my computer, I can pull up 2 screens, and that's not an issue. When I'm on my tablet and on my phone, that's when it gets a little clunky for me, which I don't do the bulk of my planning there, but that's just my personal preference.
Yeah. And I do actually, I don't use a whole lot of stickers, but the few that I have, like once I bother to like crop it or, if I create it in, another app or something, like I just save it into OneNote so that I can copy and paste it. So,
yeah.
And then, Denise, of course, Denise has the awesome tips. She said, when someone hands me a business card, I just insert a picture directly into OneNote using the business card setting. And there's information on that in the chat if you're interested in the business card setting. Oh, Denise, you're on fire today. She says a tip, if you have 2 monitors, click Control-M to get a second window of OneNote. Put your sticker book on one monitor and your planner on the other. Brilliant. Yes. That's great. Okay, so we're all caught up on the chat. Let's move on to paper pain point number 2.
Okay, so my second one, let me change my page here. This is probably the thing that has saved me the most, or has eased my stress the most, which is tracking my bill paying. So keeping up with bills that come in and what I had paid and when I had paid it was really starting to become a huge pain point for me. And it was becoming a huge storage issue as well. So, you just get a ton of paper for bills each month, no matter how you pay them. And keeping track of all of that was just, it doesn't work for my brain very well. So I decided to go digital on this. And I have this main page that I use within OneNote. That's kind of my bills hub. And that's kind of what you're seeing recreated here. So up here at the top, I list all of my bills. And obviously for my own life, it's very different, but I just sort of broke it down to show you an example. I put what it is that I'm paying, the website, because I try to pay as much paperlessly as I can. That's just my preference. And I also usually put like what day it's due of the month. So if it's, the 30th, the 15th, that sort of thing. And I do that for all of them. So when the month comes, or when the day comes, which actually later today, I'm going to have to do this for my personal bills. I just go through, I check and I pay them, and I check them off when I'm done. And then that way I kind of know that I covered everything, even if I get interrupted by my lovely family or a phone call or something like that. The second part of my bill area is I make this spreadsheet. Or it's not a spreadsheet, it's called a table. It doesn't have functionality as a spreadsheet. But I put each month how much my bill is. So that gives me just a good overview of if something has jumped up quite a bit. There are people who can keep all of that in their head. I'm not one of those. So when I try to think, what's my average electric bill, I can kind of see the trends and things like that. And the other thing that I do, which is something that I just started doing, and it's been such a big help to me, is that I keep an area here for bills that I have paid online for the year. So this is for those paper bills that are not reoccurring. So there's no need to set up a reoccurring payment or go in every month to pay them. And the biggest help this has been is for doctor's visits. So I had a baby earlier this year, and that just means that I had a ton of doctor visits before then, and I'm getting a ton of hospital bills now, even though, we have insurance and everything, we just get a ton of those. And I found that I was really getting a lot of bills that looked very similar and were similar amounts, and I wasn't sure if I'd already paid them or things like that. So I decided I needed an area for that. And I'm just doing that at the end of my big bill page just to have it all together. So I put the date that it was paid, the company that I paid it for, the invoice, and I'm going to come back to that hyperlink in just a minute. The account number, the invoice and account number are what I found typically helps me figure out if I've paid it before when I look at both of those. The amount that I paid, how I paid it, my confirmation number, and notes. So especially with doctor's appointments, I've been trying to put who it was for and what date that original visit was for, because it's not usually the invoice date or anything like that. And the other thing that I do that's not in this area is I create a page for the invoice itself, and I take a photo. This is just an example, of course, but I physically take a photo with my phone so that I have all of the details in there, because I do try to record the details that might need to be searchable, but sometimes they throw me off when I do that. So I'll just put it in OneNote, and then sometimes either physically on the paper while I'm paying it, or I go back on my tablet and just write that I paid it. It's just nice to have that in there, because there's too many times that I've almost double paid because of the way that, at least in my area, hospital bills come across and doctor bills come across and things like that.
Yeah, this I love, because we had a situation in the beginning of last year, and where my husband broke his leg, and it was the same thing where you're getting all these bills, and you'd get like 3 bills for the same amount for the same visit, but they were all like different copays, because it was like the doctor, the hospital, and then like something like a facility fee or something. And it was so confusing. So if I had known this then, I would have had a much easier time. So that is a great tip. I love the, just take a quick picture. And then later when they, if there's a problem, you've got all the information in one place. That's just a really great tip there.
Yes, it saved me a lot of stress. I think it's probably saved me a little bit of money. And it's just, that's probably the thing that's relieved the most stress from my life by going paperless.
Yeah. So we do have one comment, and I just want to mention it, and then we can circle back to it at the end. Katie wants to know if you use tags, and if so, how you use them. So as you're going through the rest of this, if you can just kind of keep that in your head and mention if you use tags, and then we'll do a little bit more on that, at the end.
Sure.
Okay. So I don't think we have any more comments at this time. Oh, there we go. Carrie wants to know if you have a separate notebook for bills, or is it incorporated into other notebooks?
So I personally have a separate notebook for bills. I find that easier, just for the way my brain works. I can see where it might work well for other people to have them incorporated in, but for mine, I put that main note at the very top. I click and drag, and then that way it's always there, and everything else is just kind of dumped in there like a big old paper stack underneath it.
Yeah. And one of the things I like to keep in mind as I'm making this decision about whether something should be a separate notebook or a page or a section is, I like to have an ability to separate like my work life and my personal life, and like chore time versus recreation time. And so if I'm doing something fun, like I'm into like genealogy, so sometimes I'm sitting at my computer doing genealogy, but I don't want to be seeing that bill page, because that's going to make me think about doing like chores and stuff like that. So, I think either one's right, but that's just another thing to consider, is how you separate your time.
Yeah, that's a really good point, of not being distracted by those other things that you can't deal with at the moment.
Yeah. Okay, so we are ready for our third paper pain point.
Okay, so this is journaling, and there's a lot of things I love about journaling. So one, I can do it anywhere from my phone, and this means that there's a much better chance that journaling will actually happen if I don't have to go and find a journal and a pen, especially because for me, I often get the urge to journal like towards bedtime. So if I have to get out of bed and go find a journal and a pen and a light and all of that, that's probably not going to happen on my phone. It's there, and I do that. And since I have 2 small children, I have a 5-year-old and a 3-month-old right now. If I have a physical paper out, it's often just like this magnet, and they want to come and look at it, and they want to sometimes color on it. I actually have a journal that I had when my daughter was really little, and it's a lovely journal for her that's written over with crayon all over my words. So just for my own personal journal, I love her art and things, but I don't want that on my personal journal. And so I primarily journal in a notebook section of OneNote, and I take advantage of the password protection feature on OneNote that allows me to just journal a little more freely. I always tell anyone that I talk to, if you're doing something that's connected to the internet, there's always a chance that it's going to possibly have something happen to it. So don't put anything that you're just like, your life's going to blow up if you have it. But the password protection helps me feel like just a little more comfortable with sort of putting my thoughts out there and not worrying about how I say them in my journaling. And I did want to share when Michele and I were talking about this, I had a tip that came to mind. So if you use Apple products, I'm not sure if this works for Android or not. They have a feature in OneNote where you can set it so that your fingerprint can unlock your protected sections. And I always suggest that you do this because OneNote is great, I guess, in the fact that you can't recover a password that's protecting a section or a notebook. You can't, it's just gone. So I've had times where I haven't used that section for a very long time. I didn't note it down and I completely forgot my password. And all of my notes would have been just kind of locked into the wilderness there. But because I had the fingertip and I always have my finger, I was able to unlock it and I was able to copy what I needed to and move those out of that section and create another private area with a password that I noted down elsewhere so that I didn't have that situation happen again. But I would have been really sad, especially with a journal, if I had just lost that forever. So one other thing, I'm going to show you my example here that I love is that you can incorporate text. So here I can type it out and I can type it on a laptop, a tablet, a computer. I can also handwrite. So I can do that. I typically do that on my iPad, but I can do it on my phone if I want to. And I can add pictures and stickers and things that relate to my day, which really just makes, I think, journaling feel really fun to look back on and really helps you sort of have your memories come all together. So I love that I can journal in whatever way works best for me in whatever circumstance I'm in and have those memories to look back on.
Yeah, and I like the page you show here because it's not fancy, but it's more than adequate to capture, whatever was going on that day. And I think sometimes when we think about journaling, we think, oh, I need that perfect, Pinterest handwriting or Instagrammable handwriting, and it's got to be all centered and stuff. And this is just an image, a few bullet points, and some handwriting, and that's really all you need. It's for yourself. So
yes, exactly. I mean, I love the pretty pages and things, and there are people who do amazing things, but you got to do with what works in your life. And the best journal is the one that you've actually written in, not one that looks beautiful,
And then you had mentioned too, I can, it's helpful when you have a baby in your arm.
Yes. That was one of the things that I found out when my first child was born is that things that seemed really simple, like writing in a notebook or something like that, just wasn't going to happen when I had an armful of baby. So right now I'm sort of experiencing that again. And, I want to note down those cute things like, they tried to roll over today and things like that. And so I love that I can easily do that with an armful of baby while they're sleeping and things like that without, I don't even have to get out my computer even. I can just do it on my phone while they're sleeping and get that done and have those memories to look back on.
So before we move on, we're almost ready to go to the next one, but there was a question going back to the bills. Michele with 2 L's, I'm a Michele with 1 L, wants to know if do you shred and throw away the paper copy once you've captured your image in OneNote when you're paying a paper bill?
Yes. So as long as it's not something that I think I might need to show somebody, I'd say 95% of the bills that I have, I either shred or throw away once I feel like I've paid it and I have a record of it. Now, there are certain things like we had an insurance paper and things like that where I'm like, I might actually need this at some point to prove to someone something. I'll keep those. But my filing cabinet went from needing to be stacks tall to one little box, that sort of thing. And that's kind of my goal, is to kind of keep it contained to one little box that's manageable for paper, rather than every piece of paper that I have. Very rarely do I need to go back and have the actual physical bill for things.
That's significant that like really everything is down into, one drawer or one, cabinet. And I like your rule there. Like if you think you might need the original to prove to someone, you keep it. But and even with that, if you have a copy, the copy might suffice to until you need to produce the original. So it's good to have that, so you're not carrying around this original that could get lost or damaged.
Right.
So, okay, the chat is good. Let's move on to paper. Let's not call this one a pain point. Let's just like paper source number 4.
Yes, this is a paper joy, but it can be a pain point when it takes over your house. So that is children's artwork. And my little girl, like I said, she's 5, and she's a very artistic little girl. And if I kept all of her beautiful creations, we could literally wallpaper our house probably multiple times with them. So one way I try to keep these under control is I let her know that I value what she creates by letting her keep just a few on display at a time. And then we use the photo or the scanning feature of OneNote to archive images of her creations. And I even make sure that I go back from time to time and go over some of these this artwork and show her some of my favorites and talk about some of her favorites, so that she knows that this isn't just some digital void that I'm saving these to so that I can throw away her paper. And sometimes when I'm scanning or taking a photo of these, I ask her to give me descriptions of the art, and I'll write that down with in the note of the image, because it's fun to keep those memories. And I'm sure some parents can relate. If you have a 3 or 4-year-old who's just starting to create art, it may not be totally evident of what she's doing. So I love having her description of what that art is. So here I have an example. We actually homeschool, so this was like a school project we did, but I have her drawing, and then underneath it, I had actually wrote her little description and story of her journal, I guess, underneath it. But I love having these images. She was talking about the seasons here. So she drew the different seasons in her mind. And I know that I'm going to love in several years looking back at this and kind of seeing how far she's come and things like that. And one other great bonus of keeping children's artwork digitally is that it makes it really easy to share with family members. And that's really great to do, especially, during these pandemic times, but anytime really. I know my husband loves to get to see her artwork while he's at work during the day, when he gets a chance to check in on his text messages and I've sent him something. He loves to be a part of that with us. And so do other family members.
Yeah, that's really terrific. And, when it's in OneNote, you can take like I have a few older family members and the little phone screen just doesn't work great for them. So if it's in OneNote, it can be on a big tablet screen or a laptop screen. And then you can, when we're finally able to see it, actually visit people, you can show it on a full size screen, which I really like. And I feel like the really like next level tip that you gave is to like, not only do you do this, you have the system, you keep it, you can share it, but that you make sure that your daughter knows that this artwork is valuable to you and that you appreciate her creations. Like that's sort of the thing I think that pulls it all together and makes it a really good, system, that it's not just a digital void, like you said.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't want her to feel like, I think it's easy with digital living in general, that our kids don't always understand the possibilities. And so I want her to know that this is my filing cabinet, that I'm not just throwing it away, or I'm not just, looking at my phone. I'm looking at her beautiful artwork, that sort of thing. I'm not just wasting my time playing a game or something like that. Not that that's always a waste of time, but I'm not just doing that. I'm enjoying the things that she does.
Yeah, I think that's great. And then Denise said she's taken pictures of her grandmother's handwritten recipes, and that her grandmother is gone, but I still have her writing, which I think is adorable. And I think we're gonna maybe talk about that.
Yes.
But yeah, there's something about the handwriting, especially for our relatives that are older and went to school when like handwriting was still taught, and they have that beautiful, cursive or print or whatever. It's really nice to have that handwriting. It can really make you remember things. Oh, yes. Carrie says, I wish this was around when my kids were little. So sweet. Okay, so I think we have covered that one, and we are on to number 5. This is our final topic for the day.
Yes. So that is recipes, just like I believe it was Denise was talking about. So I love being able to keep my recipes stored digitally because it has so many advantages for me. I have easy access to be able to search for them. I can access recipes when I'm in the store shopping, and I've had to do that many more times than once when I've forgotten what a certain ingredient is. And I can also easily make notes on the recipes, which is great for someone like me who's always like, did I like that recipe or not so much? Did I make a substitution in that or not? So since I keep my recipes in OneNote, I can collect recipes from a variety of sources. So I can handwrite or type my own recipes. Just like Denise said, I can photo or scan recipes from family members, which is awesome to have those special. I love seeing the recipes with the little stains on them because it means that someone was like actually physically touching them and holding them while they were creating the delicious recipe that I remember, that sort of thing. So I love having photos of that. And then I can also web clip recipes from websites, which I do a lot because I'm a recipe hoarder. And I just love seeing all the delicious looking recipes, and I just clip them, and I don't have to, it's not something I would have been able to print because I would have had to have like mounds and mounds of paper, but I can save them and go back and easily find them later, which is actually really nice because I've had some websites where I've gotten some of my favorite recipes, and I've tried to go back to send them to someone else and realize that they've taken the website down. So that's another great reason to keep things paperlessly and keep them digitally in there for yourself, because you don't want to lose that favorite recipe of yours. So my biggest tip about storing recipes is to think about how you might search for that recipe in the future. And this sort of goes into the tag idea. I've toyed around with tags just as a general answer to that. And I don't have a great tag system, but one thing I do try to do is that I try to think of how I'm going to search for that recipe in the future. And then, for example, if you make a certain cookie every Christmas, but there's nothing in that recipe about it being a Christmas cookie, I try to make a note on that recipe's note about Christmas so that I can search for that particular cookie whenever I need to, that sort of thing. So that helps me, again, not have this big wasteland of recipes. I can find the certain ones that I'm looking for. So I have an example here of a handwritten recipe that I had that I have in here. And then also this is a web clip of some cake mix cookies, and they were quite delicious. And I was able to put a note up here that they were super easy to make. They had a really good flavor, and that our little play group loved them when I made them for them. So that just sort of highlights some of the things I love about keeping recipes in OneNote and not just having the recipes everywhere floating around my kitchen.
Yeah, I loved the note you made, because sometimes you make a recipe and it falls flat, or you didn't like it, or like you said, you had to make a substitution to make it right. And with this one, if you are looking for something, and you find this recipe, you can remember, okay, I've made this, it came out great, it's good to make again. So that's really good. And let's see, I'm just seeing if we missed anything. So we're going to wrap up soon. Oh, okay. So we're going to wrap up soon. If you have any final comments for Mery, go ahead and put them in the chat box. We do have a question now. Sherry wants to know, is a scanned picture, is a scanned or picture of a recipe searchable for the words in the recipe?
I wish I knew the answer to that. I have tried to figure this out myself, and I don't feel like I have a definitive answer. I've tried with my own personal experience and then searching the web. Some people say that it is after a certain amount of time. Some people say it isn't. Michelle, do you have any experience with this?
I have not done it extensively, but I do know sometimes when I handwrite on something, it'll come up in a search. Maybe Denise knows the answer to that. Sorry, Sherry. I don't have a good answer. I'll bet somebody does. I just don't, because I haven't really tried to do it. Oh, and this is a good question, and I think it's a good point for clarity too. Carrie wants to know, how do you tag? Is it just typing a certain note on the page? And I think we're talking about when you're talking about the Christmas cookie.
Yes, so that is a great question. And I was an Evernote user before I came to OneNote, and that was one of the things I actually really missed was being able to kind of just go crazy with tags. What I found works when I do try to play around with tags is if you are able to come up with a really unique tag, that's the trick with OneNote, to not get a gazillion notes. I just put a note, and if I don't want to see it on the main width of the page that I usually use, I'll even scroll over a little and put it in there. I usually put like a hashtag, and then I usually try to come up with some really creative thing that's not going to be in any other note. As far as Christmas goes, you could come up with a unique tag or just kind of type a note off to the side that these are our favorite Christmas cookies, make every year, that sort of thing. That's what I found works for me. Of course, with the Christmas and the cookie, if you've made a lot of notes about Christmas and eating cookies, or if you've pulled a lot of things off the web about, we made these cookies for Christmas, you're going to get a lot of notes. So that might be a time that it's good to come up with something a little more unique, like your family name and Christmas all in one word that you can search for.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one to say, like, I would say maybe Christensen Christmas, and then anything that has to do with that would have that tag on it. But I do want to clarify, because we had a question about tags earlier. There are OneNote tags that look like little symbols. So you can see them at the top of Mery's screen where there's a to-do list and an important tag. Those are OneNote tags. What Mery is talking about right now is I would call it even more like keywords.
Yes, that's probably a better definition.
Yeah, and you would just type those anywhere on your page, and if they're typed, they are searchable. So if it's, if you're just writing up like something about it, it could be, it could find it in there. But then I sometimes specifically will add a line of text to my page that says keywords, and then I type them in. So yeah, it's a little bit different than the tagging system in OneNote. And Denise has said that her answer to the searchability question is sometimes. So I think we're all kind of in the same boat. And she does say it depends on how good your handwriting is. And that's for searching handwriting. Mm-hmm. Andrea says, I've used OneNote Gem. That's an add-on. It's I think there's a free level and a paid level. OneNote Gem, GEM, is it's an add-on, and that makes the text in a photo searchable. So that's cool. Thank you.
And one question that I think we missed above, I think it was actually when we were talking about planners. Someone said that they were playing around with Zapier, and they were considering having like a feed to kind of dump Google Calendar items into OneNote. I have played around with that. Zapier is something that is constantly evolving, so it may be possible now. It is possible to have some things kind of throw in there. It's never been to my complete liking, but that is a good idea to kind of play around with those automation areas. What I do personally to make my Google Calendar archive is my favorite thing to do is just take a screenshot. So I'll use the web clipper, make sure I pull it up in the web, take a screenshot. It's all kind of there. The only thing that's bad about that is that it sometimes cuts off the end of your event if you don't have enough room. So I'll zoom out as much as I can, because I can make the picture bigger in OneNote, and I'll web clip it. So that's what I do, but I do think it's a great idea to experiment around however you want to be paperless, and see if there's any way to automate some of those things that you need to along the way.
Yeah, thank you for catching that. I did miss that. You're right. And for anyone that doesn't know, Zapier, Z-A-P-I-E-R, that is an automation tool that lets two things talk to each other. So you could say, when I have, something happen in my Google Calendar, then something else happens in OneNote. So it lets you kind of connect apps that don't talk to each other. And that was the question, is can you use that to get your Google Calendar into OneNote? And yeah, so, and what Mery said was that, you can do it. It doesn't work great, or it doesn't work perfectly, but it's always evolving. So, and this question comes up a lot in the OneNote Bullet Journal Facebook group, and I've never seen like a really good solid answer to it. So it seems like, no perfect answer yet. Mm-hmm. So I think we have covered all the questions. So we are moving into our wrap up, but before we do that, Mery has a surprise for you.
Yes. So I have been going and growing my paperless lifestyle for over 10 years. And over that time, I found more and more ways that I can get rid of the paper clutter in my life. So when Michelle asked me to be on the show, I obviously, she told you I had to cut it down. I wanted to share as many of those ideas with you guys as possible because I know how much it's helped my life. And I want to help you guys if any of those trigger a way that you can get rid of some of the paper in your life. So I am offering a free PDF with ideas of ways that you can go paperless in your own life. And it's a PDF so you can, there's no opt-ins or anything like that in this situation. You can just go to my website at mombehindthecomputer.com/takenotechat. And you can just download that and you can import it. You can web clip it into OneNote if you want to, in case you ever want to refer back and come up with some different ways that you can put some paperless living into your life and things like that. But hopefully that'll help sort of jog your mind in some different ways, maybe some things that you haven't thought of before.
Yeah, and I took a sneak peek at this, and it's amazing. There is so many really good points, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I could do paperless there and there and there." So it's really good. I just typed the link into the chat box. It's in the video description if you need it as well. And this, I just think it's great. I love that you offered to do that, and definitely take advantage of it. Download that, and then. Not that I've ever done this. I'm kidding. Don't let it sit on your computer. Make sure you look at it and try and use it. I have definitely done that. So, Mery, thank you so much. So the link for the gift is in the description. And then where can people find you if they want more of your content?
Sure. Probably the best place to find me is actually going to be at my YouTube channel. That's where I share the most resources that I have about paperless living and things like that. So my YouTube channel is youtube.com/mombehindthecomputer. I also do have my website, which I've been working on kind of building in my very tiny, small spare time. So you'll find some resources there as well. And that's just mombehindthecomputer.com.
Yeah, and both of those are linked in the description, as well as 2 playlists of Mery's that I think will be really helpful. There's one on planners and there's one on paperless living. So definitely check the description out. There's lots of good stuff in there. And we're getting some wrap-up chats in wrap-up comments. So Ray says, "Thank you for the wonderful seminar. I learned a few tips that I can use."
Yay.
And then Paul says, "I can see more chats with Mery in the future." So we might have to do a part 2 where you do tips 6 through 10.
I would love that. I get so excited talking about, sort of digital living and the way people can make their lives a little more streamlined, a little easier, or a little more fun with digital tools.
Mm-hmm. Deb wants to know if this will be on a replay. And for anyone watching, yes, this video will stay up at the same link you're watching on. It'll just be up. Paul says, "Great guest. Thank you very much." You are welcome, Paul. And I agree that, Mery was a terrific guest. Kathy says, "Great gift. I clipped it into OneNote." That's awesome.
I love people who take action.
Yeah. And how great that she clipped it right into OneNote. So it's not just sitting, in some forgotten corner of a hard drive. Denise says, "Thank you, ladies." Maggie says, "Awesome information and resource. Thank you." So you all are very welcome. Betty O26 says, "This was very helpful. Great tips." And yes, thank you, Mery. You were just terrific. And it has been really great to work with you. So links for myself, if you want to get a hold of me, they are also. Joyce says, "I think we crashed your site. I can't get in."
Oh no. Try to get in a few minutes.
Yeah, that does work. So it might just be, we did have quite a few dozen people watching this. So it could just be that there are lots of people trying to get it. The link works though. So you might just have to go back later, Joyce. And Carrie says everything's blocked at school, so she's going to wait till she gets home. So yeah, that's it. So if you like today's video, please do hit the thumbs up button. It helps me out a lot. And if you want to see more chats like this, I do this. This is a monthly show. I have different guests every month. And then as well as more content for me, I would love it if you'd subscribe by hitting the subscribe button. So thank you, Mery, and thank you to everyone watching, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
I'm going to end the broadcast now.